I got really angry with this book because it is missing a key piece of information that made me so physically mad and so confused that I was like this close to DNFing it halfway through. I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. Now, all of you Red Rising stands out there, explain to me why you like Darrow so much, because he's kind of the worst. I hate him so much. I'm getting rid of my copy of Red Rising by Pierce Brown because I just don't think I'm ever gonna read further in this series. It's just not intriguing to me. Red Rising by Pierce Brown, I have DNF'd because I didn't love book 1. I could be convinced to read book 2 though. Red Rising is the next one. This one, you know, I got rid of my physical copy because I was like, I'm never gonna read any more of these books. And yet every time I go on the damn internet, it's like the internet is like, Jen, you should read more of these books because like, what if they get better? Oh. And yet it intrigues me. So is it a try again or is it just a C tier book for me? I don't think I really want to reread it. So I think I'm just gonna pop it in here. Yeah, okay, we're gonna put it there.
Yeah. Here we are. I went as so far and unhauled this fucker. It's been living in my storage room, in my like internal storage room, in a box of books that I intended to unhaul months and months and months ago because I just hoard things apparently. Then Lightbringer came out, which is Pierce Brown's newest book in the second trilogy of this world. The amount of people on my For You page on TikTok talking about this series and how much they love it, I want to experience that. I want to know what makes people go so feral for this world. I don't want to be left out anymore. So here I am. Welcome to series number 3. I have previously read Red Rising, as I said. I gave it like 3.5 stars when I read it. I read it back when I was first diving into sci-fi for a reading out of my comfort zone video, and I was underwhelmed, and I didn't understand why everyone loved Darrow because he's insufferable and I hate him. But I still had a good time, which is why I gave it like 3 or 3.5 stars. I can't remember my exact rating, so I'm gonna give it another try. Now that I've lived in my sci-fi era for a little while, I bit the bullet. I was gonna get all 3 books from the bookstore, and then I was like, what if I continue to not like this series? So then I got all the books, besides this one because I own this one, from the library, and one of my holds came in, which is the 3rd book. I really want to start these this weekend, and I don't know if the 2nd book is going to come in on time, so I canceled my hold and I just ran out and got Golden Sun from the bookstore because it's currently out of stock online, but they had 5 in store at my local bookstore. So I now own these 2. Hopefully I love them, and if I love them, I'll go buy this one. But as for now, I have the 3, and we're gonna give this series another shot. Place your votes now. Tell me, do you think I'm gonna fall in love with this series or not? Buckle up, we're starting Red Rising again. Hello friends, I'm popping in with a reading update for Red Rising because I read this weekend all in one sitting. First time I read this book, it didn't do it for me. There was something off about it. I think the middle slogged for me the first time that I read this. I got the whole way through it and I came out of it just raving about the fact that the why of the book was never explained to me. Here's a better idea. Let's let past Jen explain her thoughts.
I don't know how to feel about this one. It started off so good and so intriguing, but now that we're like in the thick of it, like Darrow's been made into a gold. He's infiltrated their like academy thing. I still don't get the point of why. We don't know his mission. We're never told why he's doing this. They just have put him in there. Like he's told what he needs to do, but like we're never told the mission. So he's just now in the middle of playing war with a bunch of golds, and I don't understand why. I had to go turn my lamp on so I could speak to you one more time about Darrow. I figured out what bothers me so much about this book is that we don't really even know why he's on this quest, as I said. We don't know why he's been sent into the golds because it is impossible for one man to take down an entire country on his own. The one thing that really bothers me about Darrow, he has no goal. He has motivation, sort of. Not even really, because all he is living for is debt. He lost his wife. He's not living for anything. He has no goal in this. He doesn't even have an end game. He doesn't ask, like, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to work for. I'm so mad about it because why is he there? He has no reason to be. He's just there. I take issue with the fact that he is never once, or we at least are never once given, this is why you are going into this specifically. There's no explanation as to why he becomes a gold, why he doesn't work his way up in other ranks, why he's not given any specific instruction to get information. I don't know why he's in it, because as I said last night, one person cannot take down the universe.
For some reason, I missed the whole, why is Darrow doing this? I didn't miss it the second time. I liked this a significantly larger amount than the last time that I read this. When I got to this page, which was page 173, I made myself some notes to talk about. Page 173, which is at the end of chapter 22. First note, still don't love Darrow. Still don't. I don't understand why all of the internet girlies are raving about Darrow. Couldn't tell you. He's kind of insufferable. I get that he's all about his wife. He's a my wife kind of guy. But he's also 16 years old at the beginning of this and such a child. It's so weird to me because the narrator for the audiobook is a fully grown adult man. And his voice sounds like an adult man's voice. So having him voice Darrow and narrate this is so funny to me because he doesn't sound like a 16-year-old kid at all. But his antics and what he does 100% is very like that. So I don't love Darrow. Even coming off of the end of the book, I don't love him. But I like him more than I did the first time that I read this, which is very interesting. And I'm intrigued to see how he grows and changes and becomes more of a warrior and a analyst and just a strategist, I think, is because throughout this whole book, he becomes a really incredibly intelligent strategist. And even though some things happen to him that upend his whole life in the moments, I think he's going to become a really interesting person to follow throughout this. Because I've also heard that after this book, it becomes more of a dark epic space opera, which is what I was expecting going into this book series for the first time. My number one critique coming off of this, even now, but especially before when I first read this book, when I didn't really know what to expect from the series, my first critique and my biggest critique was just didn't make sense as to why there was this whole game aspect to this. So Red Rising, if you guys don't know what it's about, I'm also going to try to keep this video as spoiler free as possible. But of course, if I do feel the need to share or rant about something that is spoilery, I will warn you. It'll be on the screen and I will say it beforehand. But Red Rising by Pierce Brown is about Darrow, who is a red. And this whole society is built on reds, which, let me get Golden Sun because that one's really cool. I had Golden Sun in my hand today and I was just flipping through it to see what the beginning was like. At the beginning of Red Rising, there's this really dramatic prologue type page that says, I would have lived in peace, but my enemies brought me war. It's this whole prologue piece. I wanted to see what that was for Golden Sun. And when I opened it up, it has this amazing breakdown of all the colors in this world. And I was where was this in Red Rising? I needed to know what the fucking breakdown was because I was so confused as to how many colors there were, because there's also nicknames for lesser golds. There's levels inside each of the colors too. So I was really confused. But anyways, so Darrow is a red, and red is at the bottom of the pyramid. Focus on the book, please. Red is at the bottom, and then there's pink, and then there's obsidian, which we haven't met, and there's browns, and then it goes all the way up to gold, right? And so in Red Rising, Darrow believes that I'm going to try to keep this really spoiler free because there's a lot of this book that's very intense when you get into it. Definitely check trigger warnings because this book is intense and dark as fuck. And there's a lot of stuff in here that's a lot to deal with. Please look it up if you're at all interested. Darrow is a red and he's living on Mars, a part of a mining colony, and they all believe that they are there to help build Mars into something that can eventually be colonized by Earth. They think they are the only ones there, and they think they are doing something great. They've been gaslighted so hard that they think that the treatment they are receiving day in and day out, they are so poor, they're barely getting fed, is fine. It's a lot. So Darrow at the beginning of this, 16 years old, he is a Helldiver, I think is what his name is. So he's one of the people on their mining team that does the most dangerous stuff. He goes into the pits, essentially. I'm not entirely sure. It doesn't really matter that much, but he's extremely dexterous. He's very nimble and he's really stupidly brave. He also has a wife, a 16-year-old wife named Io, and Io is the only smart person in the beginning of this book. But even then, she's still super dumb because she gets herself killed. that's like the catalyst for this whole book. Right before that though, like she essentially gives Darrow all of her feelings about the way that they're living. And in that, then Darrow's next choices, so stupid. He's a child, of course, he's gonna make stupid choices. He gets looped into this kind of underground situation where he gets the wool taken over his eyes and shown that his whole life is a lie and his people are slaves. They are enslaved. He gets given a mission by these people called the Sons of Ares to infiltrate the Golds and take their whole empire down from the middle. That is the whole point of this. So he gets a whole makeover. There's a whole session of it. It's very intense makeover because it's like, you know, Yennefer from The Witcher, that scene where she undergoes like incredibly intense surgery. He does that too, except it's over months and months and months of rehab and new skin and new eyeballs and like new programming in his head. All sorts of stuff. Very sci-fi. So that kicks off this. And this book is often compared to The Hunger Games, and I think that's an apt description because this book is like an adult Hunger Games set on Mars. And I remember coming off of this the first time, just being like, why? What are these games for? You know, I think the second time around, I understand it a little bit more. It's a really interesting look at the psyche of these rich assholes, the Golds, and like these highest members of society, and seeing it through the lens of someone who is of the lowest member of society. Like he's a low red. He's not even a high red. Like he's a low red. He's never seen the surface kind of red. Like he's so low on the chain, and then he becomes one of the highest members of society. And upon rereading this, my friends, I like this a whole lot more. I was in the middle of telling you my thoughts. Second point says, I can see the why now upon reread. That bothered me too much the first time, as I explained. Says, I'm still curious as to what this war game really does for the Golds and for Darrow from here. Like, we know it gives them power, and it's like this whole, like, you know, posturing situation. I ask Kira's like, can it be that simple? Just tests, then this game? And upon retrospection and upon finishing this book, yeah, it can be that simple. Power is power, and power in this book is just where you were born into, you know? It's just what you're born into that matters in this book, apparently. Or in this world, not this book. That's one of the comments that Pierce Brown has about society, which is very fun. And I have more reading thoughts on page 290. I basically say, this go around, the war game doesn't feel as long or as drawn out or pointless. So that's fun. Second time around, I'm like, no, this makes sense. Maybe that's just because I was reading it in one sitting in like 4 hours. Second time around, I did enjoy the war games more, and I could see them and they were paced properly in my brain. And then I also said I also really like Mustang, and that still stands. She's badass. Favorite character of this entire book. 100% love her. I hope she comes back. Because the ending of this, whack. Anyways, so that's Red Rising. That's my feeling of Red Rising. I have yet to run it through Copile for a new time, but I believe the first time I read it, I gave it 3 stars. This time, it's not getting that. It's getting a higher rating because it was definitely more enjoyable this time. Now, we're going to dive into Golden Sun. I am very intrigued to get to book 2. Because I want to see how the setup from the war game in the previous one blows up from here. I'm very intrigued to see how it goes from here. What else can I say about Red Rising? Hated all of the characters, but I really liked the characterization of the people in this book. It's such an interesting analysis of what happens when you put a bunch of people into a situation and give them parameters and then make them so desperate that those parameters no longer matter by the end. Okay, spoiler, gentle spoiler warning for Red Rising, but the whole like point of this game is outlined at the beginning. And I think that is so interesting because it says very clearly on page 161 and on page 161. They're talking to their proctor? They're proctor, not their praetor. 2 different things. They're proctor about like what the point of this game is. And one of the characters asks, are we allowed to kill them or not? Which should be your first red flag for Titus, because he's awful. Their proctor is like, the point isn't to kill them, so let's not go around massacring your classmates. And then again, remember though, the point is not to kill. The point is to win. That is what we want. The school's role, yeah, this is a fucking school. The school's role is to find the leaders of men, not the killers of men. So the point, you silly children, is not to kill, but to conquer. And I'm here like, My man, what do you think these rich assholes are going to do? Literally, the next page or some shit like that, there's a point in here where Darrow basically says, like, where people are like, well, how do we do that? How do we win without killing people? And he's just like, you make them slaves. And I'm like, bitch, here we fucking go. I am hype, which is very different from what I thought this video was going to be. Also, I need to make a disclaimer. I'm only reading the first trilogy in this video. I know this series is 6 books long. As of right now, it's going to be 7. But this is a completed first trilogy. I researched it. So that's why I'm including only the first 3 books in this video, because it fits with my series vibe so far, duologies and trilogies. If I really enjoy this trilogy, I will be reading the second trilogy. Will I do a video for it? Only if you guys want me to. But I'm excited. I had so much FOMO with everyone on the internet saying that they were loving Red Rising and they were reading the series, and then when Lightbringer came out, so much FOMO, and like people were saying that this is one of their favorite series of all time. This is what I love about rereading books that may not necessarily have gone perfectly the first time. Second time around usually works so good. Like with The Poppy War. When I reread the first book, it went so much better than the first time because I wasn't in the right mood when I read it originally. And I think because I read Red Rising when I was first getting into my sci-fi era, if you will, I think that my knowledge, my very scant knowledge of sci-fi and the fact that this is absolutely fucking brutal, and at the time, my knowledge of epic fantasy as well, wasn't as highly curated as it is now. I say it with like a big ass asterisk saying it's all my opinion, I don't know. The fact that I'm used to reading darker books and I now have a bigger range for my sci-fi knowledge, not quite as big as like most people, but I've read like over 50 sci-fi books at this point in my life. Revisiting this trope of the Hunger Games aesthetic dystopian shit is very interesting to revisit as an adult myself after reading The Hunger Games as a teenager, and also reading it in a like adult packaged form, and also as someone who is more versed in sci-fi and likes it a whole heck of a lot more than when I first started reading sci-fi. That's the analysis so far. We're gonna dive into Golden Sun when I have the audiobook available, because I'm an audiobook girly, and I'll let you know how it goes. It is 1:45 in the morning. Why am I so tired? I say after just telling you that it's been 1:45 in the morning, but like usually at this time of night, I'm like wide awake. So maybe I should listen to my body and go to bed. But I wanted to pop in and say hello, friends, because I have read more of Golden Sun. I wanted to fill you in on my thoughts. I'm officially halfway through Golden Sun. It took me so long to get here. This reading month has been hell in a handbasket for the past week and a half, because I was finishing up edits for A Little Luck on draft 3, which took up my entire life. I didn't read a damn thing for like 7 days straight. And then I ended up reading anything but this because I just didn't want to read this, you know? I don't know if I just fell out of the mood for it. I was on page like 1 something, like 120 maybe. And I enjoyed those first 120 pages, but like, I don't know if any of you get like this if you're a mood reader, but the fact that I was just immediately out of the mood to read it the next day, I just haven't been in the mood to read it since, hurts a little bit because I really wanted to get this video done. I wanted to just, this week got in the way. We're back. I'm not halfway through. We love it for me. Yay. After reading like 5 terrible books in a row, I need something to be a win. I am just starting part 3, Conqueror, as you can tell by my dog here. I have written thoughts at the bottom of this page 233, or 223. The font is so strange to look at. Okay, so, thoughts from the beginning. There's a 2-year time skip. Why? I think I know why now. But like at the beginning, I was like, what do you mean there's a 2-year time skip? We were just getting to the juicy shit. Like we were gonna start watching like Darrow go through the academy and like, you know, cozy up with his mortal enemy. Like, why the time skip? And then now where I'm at, I'm like, okay, I understand the time skip, because I think Pierce Brown could have done this better. Not this specific book, but Red Rising and then this book. I have yet to get to Morningstar, so I don't know about that one. But the fact that there was all that like set up in the game, I think the timeline could have been better. Timeline could have been a little bit tighter. And I think we could have gotten just a better foundation from the first book if it had done something a little different than the games. And like I kind of understand why he did the games, but again, it was just an adult Hunger Games. It felt a little gimmicky, like he was just trying to get into the mainstream, trying to get these readers, and then with this book he's like, okay, now I'm where I want to be, because it feels honestly like an entirely different genre of book. That's like what I expected after hearing people on the internet say that like Golden Sun is a step away from what Red Rising was, and this is when it gets into like the dark space operatic vibes, which yes, shit's so dark. But with Red Rising, because it's dystopic with the leanings on like the Hunger Games tropes, with like the fact that it's a literally war games kind of a thing, it just feels a little weird to me, and I still don't completely understand why there was that like whole war game set up to where they are now. And I think what would have helped is if we had gotten that bridge of time between the war games and now, because it's like 2 years, like Darrow's like 20 in this book now. Yeah, I feel like there's something missing there, but that is not to say that I don't understand like conceptually what's going on with the fact that he laid it out with the games first, and now we're in this moment where even like one of the characters in here, Severo, he says like, we're still in the games, like this is not over, which is very Hunger Games. It's very Hunger Games of Pierce Brown. There's also something in here that he does that I'm like, oh, how Dune of you, Pierce Brown. I think that conceptually I understand it, because it's like showing what these people at their lowest form, this generation of golds that are coming in that are supposed to be the highest level of gold, showing what they become in their lowest form when all they want is power. It's kind of the aim of the games in the first book, and like laying that out, and then coming into the second book where it's now 2 years later and Darrow's whole life is about to get upended again. It makes more sense to have that time skip now, because, all right, gentle spoilers. I'm gonna try to keep it vague, but gentle spoilers. So with the time skip, it actually allows a little bit of detachment for Darrow from the Sons of Ares, who have put him in this situation, right? Because they don't communicate with him at all in those 2 years. He feels so abandoned by them in a way. And I think that's really interesting because it sets him up to be volatile in a different way. He's a man now, like he's not the 16-year-old impulsive, even though those traits are still in him. He is a man. He's thinking more like a man, like a commander. Like he's honed his craft essentially by going through the academy and learning and living in the life of a gold for 2 years and being under the, I want to say ownership, but like under the management, I guess, of his like arch nemesis who killed his wife, like all this kind of stuff, you know, politics. But the fact that it's been 2 years, more than 2 years, it's been like 3 years since Darrow first had his first interaction with the Sons of Ares to where we find them in this book, makes more sense why Pierce chose to have the time jump, because the amount of changes and shifts with the Sons of Ares, especially one specific member of the Sons of Ares, like wouldn't have been possible to do, I don't think, with that shorter timeline if it had happened like right after Darrow got out of the games, after winning the games, I guess, if you can even win those games. I don't remember if they're like, it's so ambiguous. It's not like the Hunger Games where there's like a clear victor. It's like kind of ambiguous. But so in that respect, I understand why there's a 2-year time skip. It needed to lay more ground. It needed to allow Darrow to create relationships with the people that he started creating relationships with in Red Rising. I don't know, at the beginning of this book, he's like festering in these emotions is the best way I can describe it, because he feels so abandoned. He feels so alone, because he is. He literally has nobody who understands and who actually knows who he is. He's living a lie. He's been living it for over 3 years at this point, and he doesn't even know. Like sometimes he even says like he needs to keep reminding himself who he is. But I will say, like, this one feels stronger than book one, but it also feels like really brittle and up in the air, and it, like, the plot itself kind of feels like that because it doesn't feel like something solid, which makes sense though, because that's what Darrow's going through, and Darrow is first person POV, like we're getting it through his head. So like the fact that the plot feels kind of brittle and in the air and not very solid is because Darrow is literally living by the skin of his teeth. The man is getting tossed around and trying to make plans.
Make the plan, execute the plan, expect the plan to go off the rails,
like that
throw away the plan.
And it's so interesting to me. I will say this is definitely more sci-fi because they're literally in space right now. And I love it. I love when people are in space. But I will say Pierce Brown's like spatial world building in space, not spatial, that's not the right word for it, but like in space world building is weak. Like I don't visually see a lot when I'm reading this book, especially in one of the last scenes where there was like, you know, a little bit more action, and they were like, from my understanding, spoilers again, there were people like being shot into spaceships from across space, so they were traveling at like this like 10 times the speed of light or something, and they were like essentially acting as like human bullets to get into spaceships. And I'm like, okay, great, but also isn't there like no gravity in space? So once you've compromised the helm of a spaceship, doesn't that mess with the air on the inside, the people on the inside, the pressure of the craft? Like, what's going on here? Like I don't like the world building as much in this, because I guess Red Rising was set so fully on Mars, and it felt like it was just in our world, but like, you know, on Mars instead. The fact that the in space world building isn't quite that great for me. That's where I'm at. I'm halfway through, and I'll leave you guys with one more comment, I guess, because it's now 2 a.m. But that is that Mustang is still my favorite, but Severo, he's becoming a quick favorite of mine. Crazy little wolf boy. This world of the Golds is so brittle. Like, there's even a passage in here. I want to see if I can find it. Okay, there's a passage on page 124, so spoilers, where it's right after a huge event, if you will. Our man Darrow is like taking lead, which I find really interesting. He's taking lead in amidst all these people who are like, what does he describe them as? I take command of the new Golds. Again, I thought someone would object. They just stand watching me, watching for my orders. All these praetors, all these politicians and sinewy men and women of war. I held back a chuckle. Amazing the power you have when you're bloody up to the sleeves and none of it is your own. And then it goes down a little further, but like he ends this like passage with, they're all red in the end. And I find it really interesting because like he's describing this scene of like just immense bloodshed. Like it's a massacre. Everyone bleeds the same. Everyone bleeds the same colors. Everyone is red in the end, and reds are the lowest on the color chart, if you will, of this book, which is wild. There's also another one in here that really shocked me that has nothing to do with what I just said, but it's this moment on page 195 when Darrow meets Ragnar, something called a stained, which also another topic that I want to know more about. I don't know enough about these stained, but it's this moment of like, the description just sent me. It sent me because Darrow's describing this man. He runs at them from behind as they prepare to make entry into the bridge, an obsidian but larger than I've ever seen. But it's not just his size, it's how he moves. A dread creature stitched from shadow and muscle and armor, flowing, not running, perverse. Like looking at a blade or a weapon made flesh, which bananas. And then a little lower, like literally the next paragraph, he starts talking about how this brutality of this man, almost like creature, Ragnar, it's so savage, I have to look away. And I'm sitting here like, Darrow, after all you've done and after all you've been through, it's this person's brutality that makes you turn away. Wild. So like the fact that it's described only in like one paragraph, and then that's the word, that's all Pierce Brown needs to get the brutality of this stained man, Ragnar, across, and it's wild. I will say, like, Pierce Brown's writing is visceral and very sharp. I don't trust anyone in this book. I don't even know if I can fully trust Mustang or Severo, even though they're my favorite. Because, like, I know Mustang always knows what she's doing. She always has a plan. She's always, like, 10 steps ahead of Darrow, because, like, who isn't? I trust Severo because he's a little feral man, but his loyalty has always been to Darrow first. Am I enjoying myself? I am. Is this a 5-star so far? No. Shit's brutal. Shit's dark. Shit's more sci-fi than Red Rising, which I like a lot better, but I do have my issues with it, as I've talked about already in this video. I'll update you when I'm done it. Hello friends. It is now the 25th of August. I finished this last night at 4 a.m. Let me just insert my reaction to the ending for you. Oh my god. What? Oh my god. Did Mustang tell them? Oh my god. Holy shit. Cause, oh my god. What the fuck was that? Just, I'll cover up the actual book, but like literally just at the end there, I wrote just, oh my god, because that's it. That's the reaction to the end of that book, because there were some moments where I was screaming, just doing a little dancey dance of just like, oh my god, no way. Part 5 in this book was absolutely fucking bananas. Part 5, part 4, ruin. Bananas. This part alone, like, this part of the book was 5 stars. This was 4 stars. So it took me a hot sexy second, as you guys know, to like actually get into it and decide I was like committed to the book and wanted to actually pick it up. And last night I was like, okay, I'll make a little bit more progress on it. I just couldn't put it down. I was at the 50% mark when I picked it up. I started about here and I finished all of this in about 4 hours, 3 hours. I couldn't stop, which is why I was up till 4 a.m. I just, fuck this ending, and I can't even tell you anything about it. I didn't see the twist coming. I will say, I didn't see the Aries twist coming originally, which is like, when I was reading that part, I was like, yeah, like freaking out in my bedroom. And at that moment, I was like, oh, I get it now. Get the hype. I'm in. Oh, it took till the end of this book that I was in. I'm in it now. And honestly, I had to sleep on it, because it would have been like immediate 5 stars last night if I had like stopped and rated it, because this book made me scream with like, yes, and then like it made me cry and just go, what, and just like, and then the dejected like, what, at the end, just full sobbing, just like uncontrollable. Shit was whack. Okay, she was whack. But of course, since the beginning didn't really do a lot for me, and like upon like sleeping and thinking about it, it's probably more of a 4.5 star, but like still so fucking good. I get the hype of this fucking series. It is so brutal, but it is very, very, very good. And I actually like Darrow more now. I am not like to the level of like all the girlies on the internet being like, Darrow, hard eyes. No. But like, I like him as a character. I think he's a very interesting character to follow. Deborah Mustang, still my favorites. Quite like Lorne as well. He's a very interesting character. There was a moment when I was kind of coming to the end here where like, after things had been like insane and just fucking batshit, I was like, okay, how are things gonna wrap up? Because there's still a lot of the book left. Like I had like an hour left of the audiobook, or like 45 minutes left of the audiobook, and I was like, okay, how are things gonna wrap up? And oh my god, I didn't see that coming. But at that point I was like, oh, are we gonna have like another time skip after this? Because it feels like there was gonna be another time skip, because I know like between book 1 and book 2 there was a 2-year time skip. So I don't know if there's gonna be a time skip between this and Morning Star, because I had to give my library holdback of Morning Star and I'm so mad about it. So as soon as I did, I ordered the next book, which I've been watching the tracking information. It has not updated at all in the past week. It says like its expected delivery day is today, but like it's still just as like the sender has submitted the electronic information. And I'm like, has it even shipped? Where is my book? And so I'm not going to continue with this right away, even though that's all I want to do, because I don't have book 3. Live it. What the fuck was this? I will say, my comment from earlier, from before in this video, where I was talking about the fact that like the plot itself felt like brittle and kind of like out of control. It really did feel like that the whole way through. Like it was definitely a war book, but also setting up for a war book in that kind of a way. Like it's a lot of unknowns. It's a lot of just like Darrow trying to put plans into place, and also like following other plans. There's plans inside plans inside plans inside plans, trying to fix all these political machinations and still like find his way through things and keep his friends alive, but also like keep his family alive, you know, being thrown into a war all at once. The plot wasn't like super smooth, but it definitely takes you by the throat and doesn't let you go, especially in that last part. But like, woo! Boy, what a book. I did so many like dog ears at the bottom. I will say Pierce Brown's writing is so good. There are so many interesting quotes and stuff. It's insane. I don't know, like the conversations between Mustang and Darrow are so interesting to me. And also the conversation between Lord and him, especially on page 294, there is this quote that I'm going to share. It's so interesting to me because this is coming from a man who doesn't necessarily follow the gold doctrine, but has also been raised on the gold doctrine. So like seeing his thought process is so interesting. Like he says, you will fall to ruin because you believe that exceptions to the rule make new rules, that an evil man can shed the trappings of wickedness just because you want him to. Men do not change. That is why I killed the Wrath Boy. Learn the lesson now so you don't have to learn it with a knife in your back later. The colors exist for a reason. Reputations exist for a reason. I think that's so interesting to me. Why? Because like you have him kind of in the middle, and then you have Augustus, the fucking arch general or whatever the fuck his title is, and he's so rigid in believing that he is like higher than morals and that organization is the way to keep humanity alive and thriving for years, and sticking to these organizational categories and putting people in little boxes is just the way that he's gonna keep everyone safe and living. And then you have Darrow on the other side, who has said multiple times, especially in this book, it's not about colors, it's about people at this point. And I think this is why I really like Darrow in this book. In the first book, he was just annoying. But in this one, he has this way about him that is so charming in the way that he can just completely bamboozle all the golds, 1. And 2, he makes these speeches and he makes these decisions to let people just be people. He gets it, like he understands, because he's a red now raised to gold status. Like he understands that colors mean absolutely nothing. Everyone is capable of being the best they can be and doing what they want to do. And at this point that they're fighting, like he says something to Mustang at the end, or near the end. He says on page 420, as she's trying to like understand something that he tells her, he says, spoilers of course, I would have caved to revenge, but then you came and you showed me there was kindness in them. Roke, Severo, Quinn, Pax, and the Howlers proved it too. She goes, proved what exactly? He says that this isn't about my people against yours. You aren't gold. We aren't red. We're people, Mustang. Each of us can change. Each of us can be what we like. For hundreds of years, they've tried to tell us otherwise. They've tried to break us, but they can't. You are that proof. You are not your father's daughter. I see the love in you. I see the joy, the kindness, the impatience, the flaws. They're in me. They were in my wife. They're in all of us because we are human. Your father would have us forget that. Society would have us live by its rules. I take another step toward her. You told me I gave you hope that we could live for more after we won the Institute our way. Then you said I turned my back on that idea when I accepted your father's patronage and went to the academy, but I never turned my back, not for one moment. And in the way he treats Ragnar especially is so interesting to me, because he has like a bias. He has biases towards specific colors, because that's very clear. That's how he was raised, specifically to the Greys. He hates Greys. He like calls them mice and stuff like that because of his past with Greys and how they treated Reds. So he's just like, he doesn't give a shit about Greys, but every other color, he treats them nicely. Like he has a blue piloting his ship because he knows that she can do it more capably than he can. And he also knows that Ragnar is a human, even though he's this obsidian monster that the Golds have created. You are human, you can make your own choices. And I think that in itself is why I like Darrow so much now. He's such a good character. Yeah, done Golden Sun. Liked it a lot more than Red Rising. So, shit's amazing. Shit was so good. I'm in it now. I get it. Oh my god. And with that, my friends, we have come to the end of this epic journey. I didn't even update you halfway through Morningstar. I just cruised all the way through. It took me so much longer to get through these last 2 books than I anticipated. I was hoping to pop them off like within a weekend or a week of each other, but it is now like a full month into this, but that's okay. We did it. We are now here. I have completed Morningstar. What an ending, truly, okay? I don't even know how to formulate my ideas into words at this point, my thoughts into words. Like, this book was great. Was it as good as Golden Sun? Probably not quite, but it was still fantastic. I did stop reading at one point. I read about this much at the cabin over the long weekend, and then I was like, I'm gonna finish the rest of this as soon as I get home because I know I'm gonna sob. And then I just never picked it up again, and it is now September 16th. So I officially did, and I officially finished it. All of this in one sitting today when I was doing my crocheting. There were so many moments where I had to like stop and just like actually pick up the book and like find the page and be like, did I read what I just read? And Pierce, I swear to fucking God, we almost came to beef, Pierce and me. I swear to God, Pierce, my man, if you had done what I thought you were gonna do, I was about to riot. I went fully numb. I didn't even react. I was just sitting there, and like the whole time my body was like on the edge of feeling super nauseous, but I was just numb, and my whole my head was just replaying over and over and over like, no, this is not possible, this is not possible. What? Pierce, you fucker. Oh my God, you almost got me. I am also now so scared about what could possibly be happening in the next series. Because the end of this, that like last chapter epilogue was so, spoilers, was so like Mockingjay with Katniss in the Meadow vibes, but like better. Because the Katniss in the Meadow vibes is so bittersweet and filled with PTSD. But this ending, it gave my heart so much joy, but then I immediately felt so much trepidation because holy shit, there's another series with Darrow at the center of it. Like, what does this mean? What can this mean for these characters? Because my man Pierce here has put them through so fucking much already. There's Iron Gold and Dark Age and Lightbringer, and then whatever the fuck book 4 is gonna be still to go, and I need a break from this series, I will say. I need to not read another one of these books for a number of months, because 1, my sanity needs it, these are dark. 2, I need to live in the delusion that this is the end of the books and everything's chill now. Nothing worse is gonna happen. Like, where we end is like canon, the canon ending, if you will. Because I need to live in that delusion before I give myself the emotional damage that will be the next series. My opinion on this series has completely turned around from where we began. The flashbacks at the beginning of this video to me talking about Red Rising for the first time to now, like, this series is so good for so many different reasons. Like, if you really, really like sci-fi that doesn't feel too sci-fi-y, that is focused more on the political world building of things, that is quite approachable, to be honest, despite the numerous trigger warnings and content warnings that litter these books. Pierce Brown's writing is so beautiful. Like, there was moments where I had to stop and fully just appreciate his prose, because there's such brutality in these books. And some of the brutality was so much. There's a lot of real intense brutality that I have talked about in this video ad nauseum. And the fact that his, like, Pierce Brown's prose is still so beautiful, unreal. So if you like the political nature of fantasies and sci-fis, if you like the dystopian nature of the Hunger Games but want something more adult, if you like sci-fi that is very expansive and, like, you know, starts a little bit more tight-knit and very personal but expands out but still is just following that one character POV wise, this is definitely the series for you. If you like darker sci-fi, darker fantasy even, I think you could really like these books, because I every time I've talked about these books, people have commented on my, like, TikToks or whatever. I like one of the comments is standing out. I can't remember who said it, but they said that, like, Red Rising was what made them realize they could like sci-fi coming from a fantasy side. That wasn't it for me. Like, Becky Chambers was that for me. I was doing that, like, sci-fi video back in 2021, but I can see that because this is not heavy sci-fi. Like, the technology side of things is really not there. I honestly think Pierce's world building needs some help. Like, it needs a little bit of polishing, because there's a bit with the spaceships that just doesn't, gravity's a thing and air pressure is a thing. So, especially in space when there's no gravity or air pressure, like, shit happens. Like, there's some stuff that I'm just like, no, my man Pierce, this is not, you need a little bit of help. But other than that, like, this is very, very politics heavy. This is very inspired by Greeks and Roman mythology and Spartan stuff, and there's even Norse mythology in this last one. Like, Pierce is pulling on all these really interesting moments in history and mythology and pulling them into human psyche in the world building of the people in this especially. That, to me, was very, very interesting. The, like, physical elements of, like, technology and the sci-fi-ness of these books is not necessarily, like, up to certain standards in my opinion, but I think as a fantasy reader, you would really like these if you are at all thinking about it. Yes, again, check trigger warnings. These are dark fucking books, but I really enjoyed my time reading these books. I hope you enjoyed this video, because it has been a long time coming to finally give Red Rising another chance and expand out into the rest of the series. I will be continuing with this world once I get up the nerve to continue with Iron Gold, but the main trilogy is officially done. Signed, sealed, delivered. Another series has been checked off my list of continuing series. What a time. Holy bananas. I will leave on the screen the final rating from Morningstar, but the rating for Red Rising was 4 stars. The rating for Golden Sun was 4.5 stars, and this one's gonna land probably in between these two, because my enjoyment goes like this, and this. So they're all within the 4.5 star range, which is insane. Like, this is probably a 4.25 star rating series for me, which is awesome. Truly awesome. Like, what a ride. I think what really got me was that last thing I'll touch base on is the characters of this books, because I came into this saying I hated Darrow, and then I came out of this one saying, you know, I don't mind Darrow anymore, and then I'm gonna come out of this saying, you know what, Darrow's a fucking great character, and I don't love him, but I do like him. Oh, Darrow gets a gold star from me. He has such an interesting character arc throughout all 3 of these books. It's really fascinating. Anyways, my friends, my phone died when I was filming that last clip, so I'm gonna leave it here. But yes, Darrow I like a lot more. Coming out the other side of this series, he's grown up. He's not annoying to me anymore, and I genuinely feel so bad for him in so many moments. Mustang and Severo are still my favorite characters. I love them to pieces. One thing that I'll put into the universe before I sign off officially and then eventually one day dive into Iron Gold in the next series in this world is that I really hope Mustang has a bigger part to play, even more than she did in these books, because she was kind of more of a background figure, even though she was pretty revered by Darrow, and I love her so much. She was awesome and her brain is amazing, but I want her to be even more amazing and badass in the next ones. So anyways, my friends, thank you so much for hanging out with me for this really long vlog and for this adventure and for this another series video. If you made it to the end, leave me one of those like little like space emoji, an alien emoji, or a sword emoji, either one, your choice. Let me know down below if this video has convinced you to read Red Rising, or if you have read Red Rising and you agree with any of my sentiments or disagree. I would love to hear from you in the comments below, and I will catch you guys in another one very soon. Stay kind and keep on reading.